Hey guys, it's Ted Bogert. Welcome back to the TED Show. I'm excited to continue our series Top 35 Under 35. And today we have Florence, aka Flo Zimmerman, with us. She's going to talk about the top 35 under 35, her journey, and we're going to talk about leveraging social media, which you all always ask me about all the time. And you know I'm not the expert, so I love bringing on somebody who wants to talk about that. Welcome, Flo/Florence. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you doing?
I am doing great. No complaints. Beautiful day outside today. Praying that that just
Monday.
stays that way for a little
I
while.
know, right? Uh-huh.
So before we went live, I said the audience, they love an origin story. They want to know about you and kind of your journey. So if you can give them a little background, they love the point A to point B, right? You probably never started out thinking I want to be in real estate. And so people love to see what that journey looks like.
Yeah, it was actually the opposite. I did not want to be in real estate. So I come from a family of realtors. Both of my parents are real estate agents in the San Francisco Bay Area. And my mom, growing up, she always said, "You're going to end up doing real estate." And I said, "Absolutely not. I'm going to go and get something that's going to give me stable income every 2 weeks. I'm not dealing with commission only." And sure enough, that's what I ended up doing. So I went
Did
to
you make
school.
any stops along the way? Did you try out a different career and then go, okay, this is for the birds. I want to be in real estate?
Yeah, I did. So I went to school for accounting. I went and got both my bachelor's and my master's degrees in accounting. I was studying for my CPA license, and I went to work for Ernst and Young (EY) in San Francisco for a couple months. I interned there actually for a few years, for 3 years, and then I accepted a full-time offer to work there. And after 2 months, I said, "See you later."
Isn't that funny how you can go through all of that schooling? I did the same. I had a bachelor's in finance, and I know I'm a mortgage guy, but numbers are not my favorite thing. And I just thought that's what I want to do. And I just kept plugging along. And then all of a sudden you realize, why am I doing this? Is it just because I already started it and therefore I feel like I have to continue?
Mhm.
So kudos to you for making that, because that's a lot of school and a lot of studying and a lot of investment in order for
Yep.
you to did you make it right into real estate or did you take some time off?
I went right into real estate. So I started helping my parents actually. So I started off as their transaction coordinator actually for about a year and a half, which I at the time was not too fond of. But now looking back, I don't think I could have started a better way. There's really no training when it comes to getting your license. You're kind of just thrown in there. So getting that foundation was everything, because then I moved here, which I'm sure we'll get to in a little bit. But um,
Yes, I want to
yep,
find out about that. I think it's San Francisco is so beautiful. I love it there.
it
The
is. Yeah.
food scene is insane. So why Orlando? What brought you here?
I'm going to be honest with you. So my husband and I got married, and shortly after, we just had a very real, raw conversation that, hey, I don't know that this is feasible long term because California is beautiful. Weather's great, food's amazing, but it's just so expensive. So we decided literally overnight, we were like, I think we got to pack our bags and go somewhere else. So, yep.
Why here?
So my husband at the time, he was with an engineering firm. He's a civil engineer, and we started looking at different states. Texas was a contender, but Florida just seemed a little bit more like California. It's a melting pot of everything. I came here to visit often when I was little, and there were two locations for his office. There was Tampa and Orlando. I didn't know much about Tampa, but I visited the parks countless times when I was little. So I said, okay, Orlando, I'm somewhat familiar with it. Let's try Orlando. And that was it.
So how did it? I love that. But you came here. One thing I want you to share. You came here and you obviously didn't have a sphere of influence here, not a large one. So for any realtors that are starting out, and I'm sure there's some magic here, and it'll lead into our top 35 under 35 discussion. How did you do that? Because people will say, I can't get into real estate, or I can't get into anything that's sales or long-term sales oriented. I don't know people here, Ted. And you showed that that's not necessarily something you have to have.
Yeah, and I didn't have a sphere. The only person I knew was my husband. So, it was challenging. It was really hard. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I made the decision early on because a lot of real estate trainings, I attended Bold with Keller Williams at the time. That's where I started. And a lot of those trainings are centered around marketing to your sphere. I did not have a sphere. So I made the decision very early on. People are going to know me somehow. And why not social media? I'm going every time I'm looking for a hairstylist, somebody to do my nails, a small business, whatever it is, I'm going on social media. So I said, there's going to be a time when people are going to start using and leveraging social media a lot more to find a real estate agent. So why not start now? So that was my goal from the beginning. I told myself I'm going to be on social media and I'm going to find a way to get business from there.
So how did you leverage it? That's the title of our show. And then we'll talk about top 35 under 35. I think a lot of people, it doesn't matter if you're in real estate, whatever business you're in, a lot of people do it haphazardly. There's no intention. It's a lot of throwing a bunch against the wall. And then a lot of people are afraid of social media. They only know how to post a puppy picture, which I love, don't get me wrong. But they don't know how to actually utilize it for its business purpose. Can you give the audience some tips on that? Talk about what you did, because you obviously sold by flow. We've got your Linktree link going across there. I always measure people. If you've got a Linktree, you're up there in the social media. You got your game down pretty well. But talk about what you did and maybe give them some tips on what they could do.
If you scroll back, I'm going to be honest, to my first few posts, it was a little bit of a mess. I'm not going to lie. So it was definitely trial and error. But I think ultimately what has allowed me to have success on social media is just coming from a place of wanting to help people and provide value. I think social media is a place where a lot of people honestly don't utilize it correctly. It's a little snapshot, highlight reel of your life. And a lot of people utilize it as so. It's all about me, right? But if you change that conversation and you make it about your audience and trying to provide value to them, it was a game changer for me. The moment that clicked, I think that's when I really started seeing traction on social media. It took me about 18 months, a year and a half to get my first lead from social media. But now over 80% of my business is social media. So it wasn't something I figured out right away. But I think after some time, I don't know, I kept seeing the typical realtor post, just sold, just listed, look at me, which don't get me wrong, I love doing that stuff too, but that's ultimately not how you're going to get somebody who's going to trust enough to be able to reach out to you and ask you to help them with one of their largest investments, right? So
agreed. I think it's interesting because a lot of people in our industry love that. Look at me, and selfies have a place. Don't get me wrong. And people do need to kind of see your human side and what you're doing. But if your entire social media is nothing but you and a selfie, you lose an audience. And then you have to take a step back and ask, who am I doing this for? I would say they're doing it for them. And if that's your goal, if that's what you want to do on social media, good for you. But that's not going to get you business or convert to relationships that will drive business to you. So kudos to you. Our industries, real estate and mortgage, we're real bad about all the selfies and me, and look at this event I was at and look at that event. And there's a time and a place for that. I'm a big believer in it. But like you said, when you begin to shift the focus to your audience, that's a nugget. That's a big deal. So what can somebody do? Give us an example of a nugget of what they can do on social media to shift the focus. First of all, take that camera out of selfie mode. And then what do we do?
Well, a few things. One, you have to have that mindset shift because social media, a lot of people think if I'm popular on social media, I'm going to be profitable, but that's not the case. Being popular does not mean you're being profitable. So you have to shift the mindset. Okay, well, you might not get a lot of likes. That's okay. It doesn't really matter the amount of followers that you have. I think that was a big thing for me early on is not measuring my worth based on how many followers, how much engagement I was having. Because one of my first few leads that I had received on social media, she had been following me for over a year, never engaged with any of my stuff ever. So going back to your question, I mean, coming from a place of value. So something I do a lot is I offer free resources on my Instagram. So for somebody looking to relocate, we have an awesome relocation guide. I give that out to them. I advertise it. I say, hey, no strings attached. If you're relocating here, let me help you. I'll email it over to them and then I'll follow it. So a lot of resources that I offer to them on top of just, posts that are meant to educate the consumer. So not necessarily, it just sold, just listed, something beyond that. Talk to them about HOA fees, CDD. What are differences here buying in Florida versus another state, or things that are unique to Florida? People don't always engage with that content the most, but I do find that those types of content are really like the needle moving moments for me at least.
That's so That's so good because I think people are afraid to give away. They feel like they're giving away the farm, and that's not what you're doing at all. You're engaging with them. Again, you're shifting, you're thinking about your audience. And I agree with you. The minute you begin to do that, and it's not about the likes and the views and the comments, it's about people watch you, whether you know it or not. And if you're giving them value before you even get a piece of business, they're going to continue to remember that. And so kudos to you because to me, that's the magic is you can have is 1,000 likes, you can have thousands and thousands of views, but if you're not engaging in an intentional way that isn't about you, that actually shifts it to converting it to business, then you're missing out. Unless your point is completely social, but I would say
Right.
the majority of the people in our industry they're looking to do some conversion. So let's
Right.
talk about top 35 under 35 for people who don't know what that is. Share.
So 35 under 35 is a very prestigious award in our community. You have to have a minimum sales requirement to be considered. And I want to say there's a panel. I'm not exactly sure how that works, but you obviously have to be under 35. And there's an application process, and then once you get it, it's just it's all these fun events that we get to go to, a lot of exposure to other vendors like you in our industry, other professionals, and it's just something that I personally have been working towards since I got here. So it's a little bit of a surreal moment, and my lights just went off.
I mean, congratulations. It's a big deal. I believe it's a really big deal in our industry. Um, it's measurable. It's something that you can really put when you see that list and you're on it, you know that you're in the top percent. You're up there. And so it's always wonderful to reward people for that. And I don't know what kind of reward you get, but it certainly is a good validation of the hard work that you've put in. Tell me what you're going to do social media wise, or have you done anything? Has it been all sold by flow, top 35 under 35? What does somebody do when they get that award? Obviously, talking about the mind shift. What have you done?
I posted about it a little bit here and there on social media, but ultimately for me, it's just validation that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing, and that for me just sets a light underneath me, and it just makes me want to keep going, because 3 years ago, I mean, yeah, 3.5 years ago, is when I got here, and a lot of times you don't realize the progress that you're making day after day until something like this happens and you're like, oh my God, wow, I've come a very long way. So I'm just trying to soak it in myself. And that's it. I'm not too, I love to show off my successes and whatnot, but I'm also just like any other person. I tell other people this all the time. Anybody who wants to hear my story, I didn't have anything special coming here that nobody else doesn't have. I just had the determination to just want to be better than myself. So it's just a little bit surreal.
And but kudos to you. It's a big deal, but I love how you frame it, and I think that there is a place, obviously, on social media for saying, "Hey, guys, look, you're proud, and you should be." But how you utilize it, it's an interesting thing how everybody does it differently. So kudos to you for that. All right, before we head out, I always like to ask, especially my real estate friends, how are you feeling about the market?
Whew. Okay, that's a loaded question. There's a big market shift, 1,000%. I felt it as early as February, March in certain parts of Orlando because it's very pocket based here. A lot of areas still do very well, and some areas are a little bit slower. But I saw it all growing up. My parents went through the '08 recession. I know what it's like to just kind of see those stresses that go on around you. So to be honest with you, I try not to listen to the noise. I just try to keep moving forward and do what I do best, which is provide value to people. You have to change some things here and there in terms of how you're representing a buyer or a seller, but I'm not listening to any of the noise. I'm just moving forward.
The sky does not have to be falling, y'all. So listen to what Flo just said. One last thing, personal question, easy one, I think. What food do you miss from San Francisco that you can't seem to get here?
A lot.
I tell people that it's really a different food scene, even though I love our food scene.
San Francisco is unlike anything else. I would say, honestly, Mexican food. I have not been able to find a really good Mexican restaurant here. And I was spoiled because I also went to school in Arizona, which was in Tucson, Arizona, which is about 50 miles from the Mexican border. So I was spoiled. So if anybody has recommendations on a really good Mexican restaurant, I've tried Don Julio's, Agave. They're fine, but that's not real Mexican food.
I cannot wait to see the comments because I'll be following that. I'm with you. It can be very difficult to find, and when you grow up in a melting pot of food that's been around a long time, and you come here, Orlando's trying, and big kudos. I think we've made a lot of progress in the last even 5 years. But yeah, there's certain cuisines or certain things that I miss from San Francisco just traveling there. I'm like, God, I wish we had that here. All right. Florence, tell us the best way they can find you on social media or find out more about you.
Sold by Flo on Instagram, Facebook. I have my link tree that's linked underneath here that has a lot of different resources as well. So thank you so much for having me. It was an honor. I've seen the show a few times, so it was great to be on here.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on and sharing your journey. And I guarantee you people are going to take lots of good nuggets from this. So thank you for doing that. Y'all reach out to Flo, Sold by Flo, Florence Zimmerman. Thank you so much. Congratulations on 35 under 35.